My name is Auntie Eleanor, though everyone in my neighborhood simply calls me Auntie. I'm 59 years old, a retired elementary school teacher, and for the last decade of my life, I've lived with a grief I never fully learned to name. My son Michael died 11 years ago. It was a rainy October afternoon, the kind of day where the sky feels too heavy for its own good. They told me he lost control of his car. They told me he didn't suffer. They told me things that were meant to comfort. None of them did. His belongings were returned to me in a sealed box. His wallet, a torn jacket, and what remained of his phone, shattered into more pieces than my heart could endure. They said the impact destroyed it entirely. Nothing could be recovered, especially no audio files or recordings. So I buried the box in the attic, under blankets I didn't want to touch again, and swore I'd never try to resurrect the dead. But grief is strange. It doesn't leave. It waits, a quiet, patient thing. The day everything changed. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning 11 years later. I was in the kitchen making tea, scrolling through recipes I would never actually cook, when my old Wi-Fi router blinked once, twice, 3 times. It wasn't unusual for the old thing to hiccup. What was unusual was the notification on my phone, new device connected to home network. I frowned. I lived alone. I pressed the notification, expecting maybe the neighbor's kid was stealing Wi-Fi again. But the device name froze the breath in my lungs. Michael's iPhone, last sync. I stared at the screen, not believing my eyes. Michael's iPhone. Impossible. Impossible in more ways than I could count. I tapped it again. The name didn't change. Not a glitch. Not a coincidence. An exact name I hadn't seen in over a decade. My first instinct was denial. The kind that wraps around your ribs like thorns. This can't be real. I whispered to no one. I pulled out a chair and sat, unable to stand any longer. The device stayed connected. The app that shouldn't have opened. A new icon appeared on my phone. One I did not download. One I had never seen. Shared memories. Connected device library. It pulsed like a heartbeat. I felt something. Not dread, not excitement, but that strange in-between feeling you get when you're standing on the edge of a memory you're scared to revisit. I tapped it. Inside was a folder labeled Michael. My hands trembled violently. I opened the folder. Inside were dozens of files, mostly corrupted, mostly static, broken video thumbnails, images that refused to load. But one file was intact. One file glowed as if urging me to press it. Voice note, October 19th, 3:02 p.m. The day he died. My stomach dropped. They told me his phone was destroyed. They told me nothing survived. But something had. I shouldn't have pressed play. God, I shouldn't have pressed play. The voice that wasn't my son. When the audio began, I almost dropped the phone. Because the voice that came through the speaker wasn't Michael's. Not even close. It was a woman. Older, calm, almost soothing. Someone I had never heard in my life. But she spoke with a strange urgency. Eleanor, don't blame him. My heart punched against my ribs. I pressed the speaker closer to my ear. What happened wasn't an accident. My breath caught. No. Who was she? How did she know my name? How did she know about the accident? The voice continued. You were never supposed to know the truth this way. But static swallowed her words. Then the recording returned. Don't let him back in. Do you hear me? Don't let him in. My blood ran cold. Who was him? Before I could process anything else, the final seconds of the recording played. A slow creaking sound, like a door opening. Not a car door. Not an outdoor gate. A house door. A door inside a house. Then footsteps. Then the recording cut off. The past that didn't stay buried. I closed the app immediately, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I pushed back from the table, hugged my arms around myself, and tried to breathe. There were questions crashing inside me like waves. How did a device belonging to my dead son connect to my Wi-Fi? Who was the woman on that recording? What did she mean? It wasn't an accident. And most terrifying of all, who was the him she said not to let back in? The room suddenly felt colder. Not metaphorically, truly colder. My breath fogged softly in front of my lips. The house creaked. The fridge clicked. The wind outside moaned against the siding. But there was another sound too, something softer. A whisper, a shuffle. Like someone taking a step in the hallway. I froze. I lived alone. I swallowed hard and forced myself to look toward the hallway, where the lights were off and the shadows felt too thick. Hello, I whispered. My voice cracked in the middle. No answer. But the air shifted. Heavier. Denser. Like someone standing just out of sight. I grabbed my phone and walked slowly down the hallway, each step a negotiation with my courage. My heart hammered in my ears. I reached Michael's old room. A room I had kept closed for years. A room that had not been touched since the day he died. The doorknob was cold. Colder than it should be. I wrapped my fingers around it, hesitated, and stopped. Because before I could turn it, I heard a sound from behind the door. A soft tapping, like someone trapped inside. I stumbled backward, hand covering my mouth. The tapping grew louder. More urgent. Tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. No, I whispered, shaking my head. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. But the tapping stopped abruptly and was replaced by a single, clear voice. Mom? My legs nearly gave out. It was Michael's voice. Older, sad, close. Too close. But Michael had been gone for 11 years. My chest tightened. My lungs forgot how to work. I took one trembling step toward the door, when suddenly, my phone buzzed violently. A notification appeared on the screen. Connected device removed, Michael's iPhone. And just like that, the presence behind the door vanished. The air warmed, the house softened, the tapping stopped. And the doorknob slowly warmed back to normal temperature. I leaned against the wall, nearly collapsing. What had I just heard? What had I just felt? And why did it feel like something not human, had used my son's voice? The fear that returned after 11 years. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the screen of my phone, hoping the device would reconnect. Half of me prayed it never would. Half of me wanted answers. Around 2:13 a.m., I heard something again. A soft buzz from my phone. I lifted it with trembling hands. A new notification. Shared memory file ready? Play now? My breath hitched. A new file, another memory, another voice. But before I could react, the name of the new file appeared. He is already inside. My blood froze. My hand shook as I pressed the screen. The world seemed to go silent around me. And just as the audio began to load, someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow, heavy knocks. As if whoever, or whatever, stood outside already knew I was awake. Already knew I had heard the recording. Already knew I was alone. And that was how this nightmare began. The whisper beneath the bed. Nora didn't sleep the first night after hearing that strange tapping. Her room felt colder, as if the shadows had weight, as if they were watching. But by morning, everything looked normal again. Sunlight poured in. Her bed looked ordinary, her little desk untouched. It was almost enough to make her believe she'd imagined everything. Almost. She spent breakfast in silence, stirring her cereal without eating it. Her mom asked a few questions. Rough night? Everything okay? Nora just nodded. Because how do you tell your mother? I think there's someone under my bed whispering my name. After school, things got stranger. As soon as she entered her room, she felt it again. The temperature shift. Not freezing, but wrong. As if the air itself remembered something she didn't. She placed her backpack on the chair and froze. The bed skirt was lifted, just slightly, as if something underneath had been pushing it out. Nora swallowed hard. Hello? She whispered, even though she hated herself for it. Silence. Then, tap. A single, sharp tap against the wooden underside of her bed frame. Her heart jumped painfully. Nora. A whisper, soft, raspy, close, coming from directly beneath her. She stumbled back, hitting her dresser. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs wouldn't move. Nora, you dropped something. The voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was sad, like someone begging her not to walk away. Her fear twisted into something more confusing. Pity, but she forced herself to find her voice. I didn't drop anything, she whispered. A pause. Then the voice replied softly. Yes, you did. You dropped me. Nora nearly stopped breathing. What does that even mean? She whispered shakily. Another tap. A slow drag of a fingernail against the wooden floorboards. You forgot, the voice said. But I didn't. Nora's stomach dropped. Forgot what? Who was this? How could anyone be under her bed when she'd checked a dozen times? She lunged forward, grabbed the edge of the bed, and lifted the skirt with trembling fingers. Nothing. Just darkness. Just empty floor. No person, no shape, no movement. But as she stared, the cold air brushed her cheek, and a whisper rose directly into her ear. Don't look down here, Nora. Look in the mirror. Her blood ran cold. She turned slowly toward her standing mirror by the closet. The glass fogged, not from her breath, from someone else's. Words began to appear, written from the inside of the mirror. Part 3. Ask her about the river. Nora stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. She didn't understand what was happening, but somewhere deep inside, she knew. This wasn't just a haunting. This was a memory trying to crawl back, piece by piece, whisper by whisper, and whatever she had dropped, it wasn't done with her yet. The river she doesn't remember. Nora didn't go back into her room for almost an hour. She stayed in the hallway, knees pulled to her chest, trying to calm the shaking in her hands. The mirror. The whisper. The words written in fog that wasn't hers. Ask her about the river. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming softly while making tea, completely unaware that someone, had spoken from inside Nora's mirror. Nora approached slowly. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Her mother turned, concerned at the tone. "Of course, sweetheart. What's wrong?" Nora hesitated. The words felt heavy in her mouth. "Was there ever something that happened to me? When I was little. Something about a river?" Her mother froze. Just for a moment. But Nora noticed. All the color drained from her mother's face. Her smile faded. Her hands tightened around the mug until her knuckles turned white. "Who told you that?" she asked sharply. Nora stepped back. "No one. I remembered something." "That's impossible." Her mother's voice wasn't angry. It was scared. "You were only 5. You don't remember anything about that day." "What day?" Nora whispered. Her mother swallowed hard, looking away. "Nora, we were at the old Birchwood River. You wandered off. You slipped. You fell in." Nora blinked. "I drowned. Almost." Her mother's voice cracked. "You were under for several minutes before they pulled you out. The doctors said you were lucky. And they also said you wouldn't remember. That the trauma would block it out." Nora felt cold all over. A whisper from her room drifted back into her memory. "You dropped me." Her breath hitched. "Mom, was anyone else with me? Another child?" That question hit her mother like a punch. She sat down abruptly. No, Nora. You were alone." But her voice was not steady. Nora shook her head. "Someone keeps talking to me. Someone who says I forgot them." Her mother's eyes filled with panic. "Stop. Don't say that. It's just dreams, trauma memories, nothing else." But Nora wasn't convinced. She went back to her room, slowly, every nerve buzzing. The mirror was fogged again. But this time, instead of words, there was a shape. The faint outline of a small hand pressed from the inside of the glass. Nora's heart hammered. She stepped closer. The handprint slid downward, as if someone weak, tired, was slowly sinking. A faint voice escaped the mirror. "You promised you wouldn't leave me," Nora whispered. "Who are you?" But the glass didn't answer. Instead, the bedsheets moved, not violently, not like an attack, more like someone was climbing out from underneath. Nora backed up until she hit the wall. A tiny, pale hand slipped out from under the bed. A child's hand. Wet. Dripping, leaving dark marks on the floorboards. The whisper came again, clearer this time. "You didn't drown alone." Nora's knees nearly gave way. The room filled with a soft, watery sound, like someone breathing through soaked lungs. The hand retreated under the bed. Then a face appeared in the mirror behind her reflection. Small, grayish, water-blurred eyes, too sad to be imagined. A child. A girl, staring right at Nora, mouth moving silently. Until finally, the night the water spoke my name, Nora didn't scream. She couldn't. The sight of the small, waterlogged girl in the mirror, eyes swollen and gray, hair tangled with river silt, skin pale as moonlight, froze every sound in her throat. The girl raised her hand again, pressed it to the inside of the glass. Water trickled down the mirror's surface, as though the river itself was trapped behind it. Nora felt her voice return in a trembling whisper. "Who are you?" The girl blinked slowly, almost painfully, like lifting her eyelids took effort. Her lips finally formed a single word. "You." Nora stepped back. "What do you mean?" "I'm not you." The girl shook her head, droplets shaking loose from her hair and sliding down the mirror. Then she pointed to the floor. Nora followed the gesture. The tiny hand under the bed emerged again, then pulled itself back, like it was waiting. And the whisper returned. "Let me out, so I can breathe." The door opens on its own. From outside her room, Nora suddenly heard her mother's voice. "Nora, are you all right?" Nora's breath hitched. She ran to the door and yanked it open. Her mother stood there, terrified, trembling, looking like she already knew something was wrong. But the hallway behind her was flooded. An inch of dark water spread in both directions. Nora gasped. "How? Mom, what is this?" Her mother squeezed her eyes shut. "I didn't want you to remember." Her voice broke. "Not what happened. Not who was with you." Nora's chest tightened. "You lied. There was someone else." Her mother nodded, crying now. "You both ran toward the water. You were chasing something, laughing. Children always do." She covered her mouth. "Nora, only one of you came back." Nora felt sick. "Who was she?" Her mother took a shaking breath. You're a twin. The world tilted. Nora staggered backward. I don't have a twin. You did, her mother whispered. You shared everything, even your last breath under that river. But the rescuers only found one child in time. She looked at Nora with hollow, guilty eyes. I begged them to keep the truth from you. I thought it would protect you. Nora turned slowly toward the mirror. The drowned girl stared back at her, with Nora's same face, same eyes, same shape of mouth. A broken reflection of the life she never got to live. The mirror begins to crack. A thunderous sound burst through the room. Crack. A spiderweb fracture split across the glass. Water gushed from the crack, pouring onto the floor, running toward the hallway. The drowned twins spoke, not as a whisper, but in a clear, echoing voice that shook the walls. You left me. Nora shook her head violently. I was 5. I didn't know. You promised, the reflection said, pressing harder against the glass. You said we'd always stay together. The crack widened. The mirror bowed forward, like something was trying to break through. Nora backed away. Her mother grabbed her arm. Don't let her out. Nora stared, breath trembling. But she's me. Her mother's voice was raw with grief. No, she's what's left of you. What the river kept. Another crack split across the mirror. The drowned twin pushed both hands against the inside of the glass, water surging around her arms like she was rising from a deep, dark current. Let me finish living, she whispered. You had 20 years. I had none. The choice. The room trembled. Water rose to Nora's ankles. The mirror bulged outward. Her mother gripped her shoulders. You don't owe her your life. You can't trade places with a ghost. Nora stared at the child in the glass. Her own lost half. Her unfinished shadow. A girl who never got to grow up. Never got to breathe again. Never got to be seen. Nora's lips trembled. I'm sorry. The drowned twin's expression softened, just for a second. Then the mirror exploded. Shatter. Water crashed out in a roaring wave. Nora covered her face. Glass scattered everywhere. Her mother screamed her name. And then, silence. The final moment. When Nora finally opened her eyes, the water was gone. The shards were dry. The mirror frame was empty. Just a wooden border hanging on the wall. No reflection inside. Not even Nora's. Her mother held her tightly. It's over, she whispered. She's gone. But Nora wasn't sure, because from under the bed, something small and cold wrapped around her ankle. A tiny hand, dragging softly, claiming gently. A drowned voice whispering, we're supposed to stay together. And right before the lights flickered out, Nora felt water rising around her feet again.